Good morning and afternoon, everyone. My name is Emerson Clark. I'm the Growth and Partnerships Director at GWEC, and I'd like to welcome you all to today's webinar, which is all about GWEC and Informa and wind power events to watch in 2021. Before we get started, I just want to go over a few quick housekeeping rules. You can select your audio output and input here through the webcast. If you are having any technical issues, you can send us a message in the chat just here and as part of the Zoom function. Throughout the webinar, you'll be able to submit your questions to the panelists using the Q&A panel on your Zoom toolbar. At the end of the presentations, we will answer your questions in the Q&A session. And please feel free to submit your questions at any point during today's webinar. We'll be collecting them and ensure that they're answered by the appropriate people. With that being said, let's kick off today's webinar. We're very excited. And first we'll go over the agenda. So we'll begin with some opening remarks from both GWEC and Informa representatives before going a bit more detail on the overview of the GWEC and Informa market events in 2021, covering India, Asia, Vietnam, the London event called the Global Net Zero Summit, as well as our Middle East and North Africa event. And finally, we'll have a chance for some Q&A to ask any questions that may come up. And once again, you feel free to log your questions in the chat function, and we'll be picking them up as the webinar goes. Without further ado, I think we can jump into our opening remarks, and it is my pleasure to introduce GWEC's brand new Chief of Operations, Stuart Mullen. Please go ahead, Stuart.
Thank you very much, Emerson, and thank you everyone for joining us here today for this webinar. As Emerson said, my name's Stuart Mullen. I'm the Chief Operations Officer here at GWEC, and I've just joined the company. So I joined literally a couple of days ago, and my first official duty as part of my role is to introduce the partnership with Informa. Events are the lifeblood of our industry. They help develop markets, and they help amplify our messaging way beyond the industry. Our partnerships with Informa will level up events in key regions, and whether this be the live events, which we all hope that we get live events, or via the digital platforms if the COVID crisis persists. We're very much looking forward to what Informa brings to the table. GWEC's mission is to develop new and emerging markets. We're here to scale the industry's global footprint and foster debate and create awareness of the wind sector. And we all know that wind is going to play a pivotal role in the world reaching its decarbonisation goals. 2021 is set to be another big year for wind, and it also builds on a remarkable 2021. Many economies are actually looking for the green recovery to the COVID crisis. And we can see that wind is set for a 50% growth in the first half of this decade compared to the 2019 installs. And we predict that approximately up to 350 gigawatts will be installed between 2020 and 2024. Events will play a crucial role in transforming this ambition into action. Events bring together investors, governments, the supply chain, and other interested parties. And the impact of a properly run event can be transformational if done right. When GWEC was looking for an events partner, we looked for the best of the best. We wanted to find a company with a DNA in energy and experience in wind, and we're confident through the Informa partnership that we've found the correct partner. We believe that the Informa partnership will help us scale up our industry and also the global footprint. And as you'll hear from the Informa team, we will be creating together world-leading events in Asia, the Middle East and Africa, and in years to come, Latin America, which will also build on what the current partnership that we have with Informa in Brazil. I'll keep my remarks short today, and I'm happy to take any questions at the end. And now I'll hand the floor to Gareth Rapley, the Group Director for Energy and Utilities at Informa Markets. And Gareth can introduce you to his Informa team and take you through the respective events. And as Emerson mentioned, if you have any questions for GWEC or Informa, please write them in the chat and we'll answer them at the end of the session, or if time permits. And if it doesn't, then we'll get back to you either with an email or something in writing afterwards. And so now, Gareth, without any further ado, I hand the floor over to you, and thank you and the Informa team for joining us here today.
Thank you, Stuart, and thank you to all of the GWEC team. It's a great honour for me to be here representing Informa Markets today. As Stuart mentioned, my name is Gareth Rapley. I'm the Group Director across Energy and Utilities in Informa Markets, and I have the great honour of introducing you to Informa Markets for those that may not be familiar. And this is a partnership that we're really excited by as Informa Markets. Sustainability and energy are key parts of what we're trying to drive across our business. And to give you an overview, as we just look through the next few slides about what Informa Markets actually is, I think Stuart's referenced some of it in his opening comments there. We feel we're one of the leading business entities in terms of the events, media and digital components, bringing communities together, providing vital connections, business opportunities, and learning through our various different platforms that we provide. So we deliver on average, if you're able to move to the next slide, Alyssa, over 500 events in a traditional time. And these are normally large scale, branded and transaction orientated events within our markets. The reason why I meant in traditional times, obviously, as Stuart's mentioned, we're still going through the pandemic crisis. And this has challenged the event sector across the world. I meant we're just having to switch between where we can provide live opportunities. And this is happening in pockets around the world where permission permits and opportunities prevail to enable us to bring people together in a live face-to-face format. But we also have a huge amount of experience and expertise in delivering year-round online platforms and enabling these connections and opportunities for research, valuable leads, and digital and data content through our online platforms. So this just gives you a snapshot that we're covering 14 specialist markets, and these include areas like pharmaceuticals, healthcare, real estate, and energy and utilities. We traditionally bring together over 5.8 million people through our events in an annual cycle, and this covers over 40 countries, and we have over 5,000 colleagues. If we look to the next slide, where this gives you a bit of an idea about the expertise that we're bringing to this partnership with GWEC. So across energy and utilities, we have a database of over 500,000 industry professionals. And our experience has spanned over the last 46 years with our events and digital media. And we traditionally cover the following 6 areas: renewable energy, and this really looks towards solar, energy consumption and management, looking around areas like biogas, also electric vehicles, areas like wind, we've touched upon across our events, but this is something we're really excited by this partnership to really expand and build upon this area that has huge potential and huge amounts of development across the coming decades. Transmission and distribution of electricity, so more towards that end usage. Power generation, and this has really looked towards conventional power and more importantly towards critical and backup power as areas prevail that need those types of support. Energy consumption and management as highlighted. Water, so we have a series of wet events that really look around that water production and supply. And we do have some events within the oil and gas sector as well. So just focusing the spotlight a little bit more into what that means in our energy and utilities portfolio. So as we look to the next slide, we cover 5 different continents, 30 events, and these traditionally bring together over 270,000 visitors across our events in a year, and normally 17,000 plus businesses. So we deliver on scale around the world, helping to support the energy market, really provide those opportunities for learning, networking, and valuable business opportunities to help support growth within SMEs through to large corporates. And just to give you an idea of some of our leading brands, you may know Brazil Wind Power that we already do in partnership with GWEC and Abiolica. We also run the ASEAN Sustainable Energy Week that happens in Thailand. We have Middle East Energy that happens here in Dubai. We have Renewable Energy India, which we'll hear more about today from Rajneesh as we talk about India wind power. We have energyandutilities.com, which is a year-round news, intelligence, and marketplace platform. And we have Canal Energia in Brazil, which is long established. So this gives you an idea about Informa Markets and why we are so delighted by this partnership to really bring together what we already do and synergize those opportunities where we've got existing infrastructure. And you'll hear more about this. As I mentioned there, we've got India. You'll hear from Rami as we talk about Egypt and our 30-year-old Energy Egypt event that will co-locate with MENA Wind Power, along with what we have in Vietnam, where we have an existing event that will be coming more into the fore in the coming years. And we hope to deliver upon what we have in 2021, but we're also excited about the long-term opportunities that exist in future markets around Asia, Africa, and Latin America to really support the requirements around policy, finance, supplier matching, and connection. So thank you very much for joining us today. I look forward to speaking more in the Global Net Zero Summit presentation. On this point, I'd like to hand back to Emerson.
Thanks very much, Gareth and Stuart. I think that provided a really good overview and really sets the scene to go into some market-specific presentations. If we can go to the next slide, please, Alyssa. I'd like to introduce Mr. Rajneesh Khattar, the Group Director for India on Informa Markets, to give us a bit more detail about India wind power. Thanks very much, and go ahead, Rajneesh.
Yeah, thank you very much, Emerson. And first of all, good morning and good afternoon to all the colleagues who have joined from across the world. And welcome to India. This is the world's most fascinating and most exciting renewable energy market today. And as we are pretty rightly titled, adding winds to the show, and that's what makes sense. And because this event of Renewable Energy India Expo, which we are doing for the last 13 years, and in fact, unfortunately for 2020, as we all know, we had to give it a pass. But the 14th edition is coming up in September of this year, 2021. And the India Wind Power is part of this mother brand called Renewable Energy India Expo. Next slide, please. Very happy to share the growth story of Renewable Energy India Expo, which is, and we have just taken a part of it starting from 2014 until 2019, and I'm sure, a lot to look forward to in 2021. And as you can see, there's a consistent growth, from in terms of number of exhibitors, which have risen from 464 to 729. And similarly, there has been a consistent reciprocating increase in the square meters also. So that actually tells the complete story of last 5 years, that how this event has become an iconic and a cult figure in its own domain. And I think one of the most appreciable and the most influential energy event in this part of the world. Next slide. Few of our brand ambassadors over the period of time, as you can see, a lot of leading brands from solar and wind industry, could be Vestas, the Suzlons of the world, Adani, Gamesa, Tatas, Jinkos. They have been a part of our growth story so far. And the next slide will also tell you that what kind of strategic partners we have been dealing with. Probably, as you can see, that most of the leading international partners, whether it's a JETRO from Japan or ADB or Canada High Commission, Kotra from Korea, the BASF from Spain, Germans, the UK Trade Investment, US Commercial, EBTC, and of course, the Indian organizations like we have Tamil Nadu, the state-wise, and of course, the federal Ministry of New and Renewable Energy. So they have been our arms and legs, in taking out what India wants to showcase to across the world. And we have been very, very privileged to have such a nice and very, very kind of a purposeful our partners across the globe. Next slide. Now, just to give you a little kind of at a glance that how India renewable energy sector looks like as of today. Yeah, we are at as of December 31st, 2020, we were at 89.63 gigawatt. That's a total renewable energy capacity. And just to share with everyone that this does not include the large hydro. The large hydro itself stands at 46 gigawatt, which has been pretty recently has been added to the fold of renewables. But if you remove the large hydro part, which is itself, as I said, 46, we are still at 89.63, and which is actually contributing 24% of the country's installed power capacity, which is currently standing at approximately 377 gigawatt, out of which 89.63 is renewables, and which is in terms of electricity generation potential, we are contributing 11.62% to the entire basket of India's power. Next. Now, this also shows that how the distribution of renewables has happened as of now. And as one can see, the solar is just catching up. In fact, this slide is actually of December 2020, but just pretty recently, I think a week ago, solar has just nudged past to wind, and just by a margin of 0.05%. But both are going, neck to neck, and I think this speaks a very healthy competition between the two. And of course, there's the bioenergy and the small hydro, which are adding to the complete basket. But I'm sure, as I can see the trend, the solar and wind put together is going to take India into the global world map. Next. Now, coming specifically to the wind, because this is the this tie-up and this association and collaboration with GWEC is all about the wind. As you can see, we are world's 4th largest onshore wind market, and the good thing is that the wind auction tariffs have been removed. So when you remove the wind tariff caps, it actually brings the market to a forefront, and it's the kind of competition what we can look forward to, because there is no capping on the tariff. Now that means it's going to be more dynamic and more action oriented and more result oriented. And just to capture that, what's the kind of auction prices we are, very much low, very, very competitive. And that's what makes India such a fascinating market. We are trading at 0.03 to 0.04 US dollar per kilowatt hour. And as you can see from the graph at the bottom, the way wind has grown consistently up to 2020 was 9%. But from here, since the reverse auctions are not happening anymore and the tariff caps have been removed, we are looking at a fantastic jump of 14% and targeting by the end of 2022, 60 gigawatt leading to 100. And then India's latest forecast is about 140 gigawatt of wind by 2030 out of a total basket of 450 gigawatt. So that speaks at how ambitious the targets of Indian wind industry is. Next slide, please. Now that was all about onshore. Coming to offshore, India is theoretically pegged at 195 gigawatt of total offshore wind potential, but that's a technical potential. And it's divided between 112 gigawatt on fixed and 83 gigawatt for the floating. And floating means the foundations are within which 200 kilometers off the coast. So looking at this, in 2022, we are targeting 5 gigawatt from the offshore, which eventually is going to translate into 30 gigawatt by the year of 2030. Next. Very interestingly, these are the few of the attractions of 2021, because as Gareth rightly explained, there was a gap of in the year 2020, but some of the nice attractions, of course, we are starting with the re-energizing of wind sector, because there was a little gap on the wind from the renewable portfolio. And of course, as I said, there were the reasons behind, but besides the re-energizing of wind sector, there's the bioenergy, training workshops, focus on the wind and solar hybrid technology. There's the finance roundtable, the CEO summit, the fireside chats, the CTO conclaves. I think there are loads and loads of features one can look forward to. And of course, not only the B2B meetings, but also B2G meetings one can expect. So, and we are also trying to make it a hybrid model, but for the time being, it goes physical. But there are a lot of attractions which one can look forward to in the 2021 edition. Next slide, please. Thank you very much. And here are my coordinates, and I'll be very happy to take any question and any information about the show, any information about or any statistics about India. I'll be very happy to share with you. Thank you very much. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much, Rajneesh. And just as to complement that, before we move on to the Asia and Vietnam, GWEC has recently created its local entity called GWEC India. So the timing is really right for this and our first joint event in India with Informa in 2021. With no further ado, we have Asia Wind Power and Vietnam Wind Power, which are being co-located, and I will pass it over to BT, General Manager for Vietnam for Informa. Over to you.
Hi, good morning and afternoon, everyone. Can you please go to the next slide, please? I'll just start. Thank you for being here. Vietnam essentially is pretty new to the game for renewables and for wind, but it is growing fast. The demand of expansion of energy demand has been pretty robust, and despite the malaise of 2020, we have actually, as a marketplace, grew 2.9% with respect to GDP, and we hope that the growth will continue. and come back in 21, and we are expecting about 6.8%. All this requires energy, and with the expansive coastlines and with average speeds of 6 to 8 miles per hour, Vietnam actually has a high potential for several key projects for wind, and some of the first power generations through wind will come in 2023. So that sounds good. So what's for 2021, and how do we actually join and engage the marketplace? Next slide, please. GWEC has been in the marketplace since 2018, and with this joint venture, we are actually complementing the existing infrastructure with a bit of our local market depth and support. We have run Vietnam Wind Power. The next wind power program will be from the 22nd to the 24th of September 2021 at the Pan Pacific Hotel in Hanoi. This is actually the first regional wind event for Asia, and it is a 3-day conference organized by GWEC with partnerships with local industries and GIS and some trade officers. This conference features more than 55 speakers, 500 over delegates, including government representatives, CEOs, and market leaders. And we also have a high-level government panel with this conference, together with CEO panels, finance and policy upgrade sessions, and an exhibition zone with a technology showcase. Next slide, please. From 2021 to 2022, we are actually hoping to expand the program and move the program from Hanoi to Ho Chi Minh, where it is co-located with an existing power and utilities program by Informa Markets. And with that, we actually hope to drive a higher level of audience where we will have, together with the conference and exhibition event at about 8,000 square meters in size, with over 200 exhibiting companies over 20 in 20 countries. We expect the trade visitorship to be around 5,000. Next, please. We have actually built on the success of previous events. The last live event for GWEC for Vietnam Wind Power was in 2019, and unfortunately, the pandemic happened in 2020, and so the event in 2020 was virtual. That said, we actually had very good support from the industry, where in 2019 the participation level was at 432 with 56 speakers. Over 300 companies represented with 20 media publications and 17 partners and sponsors. 2020 was a watershed year. Nevertheless, we had over 1,000 registrants from 50 countries with 11 partners and sponsors and 25 speakers for our virtual event. Next, please. We've had good industry support, and we expect better industry support in 2021 when the market comes back, as the industry comes back, and we hope that we can together drive to build a bigger marketplace in Vietnam for the wind power business. Next, please. That's all for my presentation. Thank you very much. And if you are interested, the context for Vietnam business is listed as above.
Thanks so much, BT. And I know that as a follow-up email for everyone on this, all of our attendees today, we will be sending all these contacts. So no need to be furiously scribbling when you see the slides. A summary email will come with all of that. So thanks again, BT. You know, we're very, as you know, GWEC has been very involved in Vietnam in terms of policy initiatives and convening industry and government. And we're really looking to build that and co-locate the first regional Asia Wind Power also in Vietnam for the early years of the partnership. So thank you once again. Next slide, please, Alyssa. And I'd like to introduce Gareth actually to come back and give us a little bit of a rundown on the Global Net Zero Summit. Floor is yours, Gareth.
Thank you again, Emerson. And thank you again, everyone, for tuning in. So net zero is a pivotal topic, I think it's fair to say, across governments, across businesses, and equally for us as society as we stand today. If you look on a global scale at the moment, I think there's 8 key countries that have really set out their net zero targets, but there are many more starting to follow suit. I think it was a welcome relief at the start of this year as Joe Biden took office to see the US come back into the Paris Agreement. And towards the end of last year, we'd also seen outlines and intentions of commitments from Japan, South Korea, and China. So leading international global countries setting their agenda towards net zero. So we feel now is the time that this topic really needs to come into a sharper focus to enable the agenda to really be there to hear about what governments are setting out, how industry needs to play its part, and what's going to enable the action to meet those targets over the next 10, 20, and 30 years, as we see varying degrees of targets being set out from 2030 through to 2050. So the Global Net Zero Summit will be a hybrid event with the aim for this to be held in London on the 5th to the 6th of October this year, which will be happening a month in advance of the critical COP26 meeting in Glasgow. This will be a summit that really brings together the opportunities of live in-person interactions, networking, engaging, and really having that opportunity to learn, but equally affording those opportunities as this is a topic which really reaches a global scale for the world to convene and have an opportunity to hear about what's happening. And they'll do that through a format of keynote addresses, opening addresses, panel discussions, fireside chats, and the opportunity to network as well. This will be a paid summit to attend, and we're looking at delegate rates ranging from $395 to $995. And those rates will vary depending on whether you are an online booking through to an in-person delegate with the different opportunities that those will present. So if we move to the next slide, this will give you an outline of some of the topics that we're looking to cover through the Net Zero Summit this year. So we want our global outlook on what it means on reaching net zero, hearing from key entities and global think tanks about how we're really looking to achieve net zero. Energy transition is a key driver. Energy continues to play a key role in society today, and there's a huge amount to be done as we move through the energy transition to a cleaner form of sustainable energy. Governments, what are the plans? What are the actions? How are we really achieving those? Those that have set their net zero targets and some of the other actions that need to follow within that. We also want to hear the role of businesses and industries to deliver net zero. So hearing from companies like Microsoft, IKEA, Unilever, Amazons of this world about how they are interacting in more the form of the circular economy, things like data centers, which are a huge consumption of energy, how they're decarbonizing and meeting those carbon neutral targets that they're aiming to set out. The oil and gas industry, often seen as a big carbon emitter, but we've seen over the last few years, companies like BP really setting the agenda, along with companies like Shell, Total, major international energy companies of today, saying this is how we are looking to transition our oil and gas upstream operations to reach net zero targets over the coming decades. So we want to hear from them about how they're planning to achieve those. Finance and investment. This is one of the pivotal parts. Without money to invest, then the world doesn't have the opportunities to look at infrastructure, developments in terms of commodity sectors. So we want to hear from how the finance and investment sector is looking at where they're going to place their investments into the future, how they're looking to achieve those through sustainable actions and enabling those opportunities to meet net zero targets. Looking towards smart and sustainable cities. Our everyday life, as I mentioned, the society is going to be impacted as we move towards a net zero future. So we want to hear about how these things are happening on a technology front, city infrastructure, and hearing from different mayors or societies about how that's going to happen, and areas like buildings as well. Clean hydrogen. This is a topic that's continued to grow over the last 18 months, and will play a huge part in the energy mix as we move forward, looking at areas like green hydrogen and how that's moving and going to play a role in achieving these targets. Obviously, as the wind sector, wind energy plays a huge part as we make that energy transition and enabling that decarbonisation. And we also want to hear from the maritime sector. I think it's fair to say maritime is one of the sectors that is going to be most challenged by achieving net zero. They've got, I think, some key targets around the sulfur reduction and looking about how the maritime sector moves into more fuel efficient and opportunities as we move goods, logistics, and also enabling things like the offshore operations in wind to achieve that. So we want to hear about how they feel that they can decarbonize and move to those net zero targets. And within these, we want the speakers, and we'll be targeting from government officials, C-level executives, global think tanks, and leading experts on these subjects. So this is about a strategic summit, really engaging a diverse audience across many different sectors that need to understand about what the opportunities exist today for their businesses, how they can implement actions today, and areas that they might need to change in their strategic direction moving forward. So this will be a great opportunity for your business to engage and have the opportunity to hear and also network with like-minded professionals. So we move to the next slide. This will really offer you the opportunity to get involved at an individual and or business or corporate level around sponsorship, where you might have CSR initiatives that this enables you to achieve. Brand alignment, thought leadership, really kind of aligning across key topics and senior officials and business leaders, and really positioning your brand at the forefront of achieving those net zero targets and enabling that strategic messaging. But also for you to interact as a delegate, where you can discover, say, what lies ahead, engage and network. And if you've got more questions around the summit and how you can get involved, then please feel free to reach out to myself directly, and I can direct your questions through to the relevant member in terms of either our conference or sponsorship on this event. So we look forward to welcoming you either online or in person in London later this year, and really moving this key topic to the forefront of everyone's agenda. So thank you very much, and I hand back to Emerson.
Thanks, Gareth. I think we all know the role that wind can play in decarbonizing and reaching net zero. So, to kind of touch on the point that Stuart mentioned earlier, this is one of these opportunities where we feel, the wind sector can lead the charge, but also, bring in the different industries and the different stakeholders that all need to be part of the road to net zero. So thanks once again for that, Gareth. I think our last presenter, on the next slide, we have Mr. Rami Bushra, who will give us a little bit of detail on Middle East and North Africa wind power. Over to you, Rami.
Thanks, Emerson, and welcome everybody. MENA Wind Power is the fourth in the wind power series of event organized by GWEC and Informa. It will take place in Cairo, Egypt in November 2021. I want to just go through why Egypt. My main points will be discussing why, how the event will happen and what to expect from it. Other than Egypt is one of the highest growing economies in Africa. It has an outstanding wind energy condition. We have an average of 8 meters per second wind speed, and that's across all the Red Sea coast, the Nile Bank, and the Western Desert. And according to the Integrated Sustainability Energy Strategy, which I'm sure many of you have heard about, by 2035, 42% of the power generation in Egypt should come from renewable. And that show you the long-term plan for Egypt and the development going on there. For the short-term plan, when we looked at the goal that Egypt put for wind energy is the market to grow by 15% during 2020 to 2025. And generally, the renewable energy is expected to make up to 20% of electricity generation by 2021, 2022. That shows you the immediate opportunity that's out there in the market for the short term. This will be the first regional wind event take place in Egypt, so you can expect the big focus that will be on it. And finally, in November, the weather is quite amazing in Egypt. Can we go to the next slide, please? So who will you be meeting in MENA Wind Power? We have government entities, and that, for example, is the Ministry of Electricity and Renewable Energy, New and Renewable Energy Authority, the Egyptian Electricity Holding Company, and the Ministry of Environment. We work together very close, and you will expect to meet them. Financing and investors, we have a lot of national banks working with us, and for example, the EBRD have been our sponsor and partners for the last 3 years. You can expect to meet contracting companies, EPCs, and of course, manufacturers, distributors, and agents. This is in terms of entities that you will be meeting. Let's talk about people in next slide. So usually in the event, you'll find senior government officials, the key policymakers, the decision makers who will be there. You'll be able to meet them, and of course our type of visitors, engineers, project managers, and consultants. In the next slide, I'll be speaking about the event that we co-located with MENA Wind Power. It's Egypt Energy. Egypt Energy is the only specialized event for power and electricity sector in Egypt. It is the largest event in North Africa, been running for 30 successful years, very highly supported and recognized by the Ministry of Electricity and Renewable Energy. In the last edition, we have received 11,000 unique visitors, and we had 250 exhibitors from all over the world. Can we move to the next slide, please? So when two leading organizations like GWEC and Informa combine their expertise to deliver a project like MENA Wind Power, it's only fair to expect visibility, where you can showcase your products and services in front of your potential customers and educate them about your brand face to face. You can improve your return on investment by leveraging our extensive year-round marketing campaign, targeting thousands of buyers. You can show off your innovation, educate your target audience with key messages in our technical seminar, and of course, conference sessions. And finally, the main objective of participating in such event is to save time and money by generating quality leads and reaching your target buyers. Thank you so much. Again, the MENA Wind Power will be in Cairo, Egypt, November 2021. Thanks a lot and hope to see you. Back to you, Emerson.
Thanks so much, Rami. And I think it's fair to say that, while GWEC has, been active on the African continent, this is sort of a first for us in terms of doing a Middle East and North Africa focused event. So very excited to be expanding our presence in the region. So I think we're now ready for the Q&A period, and I'll first take quite a general question from the audience, which is essentially about the differentiator between the GWEC and Informa events and other wind power events in the market. I mean, we're conscious that there are other ones out there. I guess this comes back to, as GWEC, as the overarching association representing the wind power. Our events are the official industry events. And we feel comfortable saying this because our network of associations, both regionally and with national associations, is really key to this, of having our network and our boots on the ground. And we are, I think, uniquely positioned to convene the right policymakers, which is done through our ongoing market development work, and ensuring that the right industry players are at the table, and really providing a platform for those types of discussions, especially on the policy front. And I think that, what Informa brings to the table is really the commercial opportunity that these events will present. And that's why, while GWEC will continue being focused on policy initiatives, I mean, the ambition here is to scale up to large regional events, both, as well as on thematic ones such as, offshore specific, to really stay in step with the growth that we expect across the market. So that, in a nutshell, I think is how we would address that particular question. Stuart, I'm not sure if you had anything to add on that one. And if not, I've got a question for you.
Yeah, thank you, Emerson. And you're completely right. I think that the GWEC events is industry for industry, and that's really important. So we are the voice of industry. We work, as you say, with the local associations, and I mean, this whole idea and this whole idea behind the partnership with Informa is to look at how we can actually amplify our messaging from the individual country into a regional level where it makes sense. And I mean, we are the Global Wind Energy Council, so we are actually trying to elevate this to a global platform. And again, I think that this partnership with Informa actually helps us do this. I believe the question was from Mohammed, was that right, Emerson? I think I saw it somewhere in relation to health and safety. So I think Mohammed represents a safety management company, and his question was in relation to how can we get in contact with the market leaders in the wind industry. And again, this is one of the benefit of the GWEC events. If you look at our membership, it's pretty much the who's who of the wind power, from the developers, the financiers, the OEMs, and again, all of their regional organizations. We have great contacts. We have people on the ground that are working daily with the market leaders. And it's these type of companies that participate traditionally in our events. And specifically in relation to health and safety is probably one of the key global issues of wind power. Everybody wants to get their people home at the end of the day in a safe and committed, and all of the companies are committed to this area. So again, most of our conference programs have a health and safety track where health and safety experts will, representing the market leaders, will be participating in these things. There are often health and safety companies represented at exhibitions. And again, you're going to be put in contact with market leading procurement people that will be looking specifically for health and safety skills. So again, in health and safety, it's one of the areas where I can safely say, pardon the pun, that this is going to be something that you will meet at every single conference, because it is an industry-wide topic, regardless of where you are in the world.
Thanks, Stuart. And GWEC actually already works closely with the GWO, which is the Global Wind Organization, which is a Denmark-based, I guess, really the preeminent organization for health and safety across the wind sector, with a specific focus on offshore. So something that GWEC is already well versed in. One for you, Gareth, that's come in, and how does co-locating our wind power events with existing Informa Expos help increase opportunities for our sponsors and support for high quality events?
Very good question. I think this really brings into light this partnership and what the two entities bring together in supporting the sector. So Informa has, as I've mentioned earlier in the presentation, a long-standing reputation, expertise and experience of delivering high quality, high value events across the energy sector. So co-locating, we've seen some examples today with Renewable Energy India. It's been running for 14 years, has continued to grow during that 14 years, and has a wide audience and large reaching. So co-locating India wind power, that there'll be crossover. There's many decision makers that are maybe looking at project infrastructure from government, financing, investment, we'll be looking into areas across wind as well as other maybe existing energy infrastructure. And likewise, as we've looked at with Vietnam, as we'll move that into 2022 with Asia Wind Power and into Egypt itself as well. It's building upon the relationships, the database, as we've shown today. We've got an existing database of over 500,000 industry professionals, and combining that with the expertise, that in-depth market knowledge from GWEC, the relationships that you hold, as Stuart's just rightly pointed to a moment ago, we feel, this is really bringing together the best of two entities within their respective areas, and being able to leverage existing infrastructure. It's not just starting from fresh, we're starting from a platform of strength and being able to build those and offering enhanced opportunities for exposure, networking. And one of the things that we really pride ourselves on in Informa is really building communities, enabling those opportunities for business development, learning, and lead generation. So I think this is a prime opportunity as we move through this partnership and enabling those co-locations.
Thanks so much, Gareth. And we're only 3 minutes over time, and I know everyone has a very busy schedule, but we thought it was very important to follow up on the press release announcing the partnership to really bring this to life and give a chance for the very, very capable Informa team to give some extra detail on the events we're excited to execute in 2021 and beyond. As mentioned earlier, we will be sending a follow-up email, and we would very much encourage you to use the contact details provided both on this call and that will be contained in the follow-up email to get in touch with the relevant people based on what markets and what events you might be interested in, or general questions also welcome. But for now, going forward, this is a GWEC and Informa. This is vision is to have a long-term partnership and to have an integrated team where both bring their respective expertises to the table. So once again, thank you so much for taking the time to hear us out, and please, by all means, consider the lines of communication open and follow up as you see fit. I think on that note, I'll thank the speakers once again, especially Gareth and Stuart and all of our all the key people in the markets that we ran through today. And I wish you all a productive week.